So in this video, I want to talk about the 9 traits of a real estate agent and really help you understand the difference between a really good, solid agent that's gonna have a long career in real estate and an agent that's really on a downward spiral or maybe a pathway to failure. All right, now I talked to a lot of agents, and at this point, it's been probably in the 4 figures over the years. And one of the things that I pay attention to when talking to these agents is the nuance in the way that they approach their business. And over time, when you talk to enough people in the same industry, you start to pick up patterns. And I wanted to talk about these patterns today because these patterns are really what separate an agent that's not gonna make it very long in this career to an agent that is going to completely annihilate this career and have a very, very long tenure in the real estate business. Now, really depending on where you are in your real estate journey, I highly recommend that you pay attention to all of these points and then take these as landmines to avoid so that you can make a healthier career for yourself in real estate. All right, so now let's get into these 9 traits real quick, shall we? So first, let's start off by really labeling this whole little framework as the RE pathway to failure. And really, this real estate pathway to failure, we're gonna break this down into 3 main categories. And those 3 main categories are money, mindset, and of course, motivation. Okay, let's start with money first. Now, big trait number 1 is that successful real estate agents are not afraid to invest. Now, let's take a second and let's talk about ROI. The words ROI, return on investment. Now, if you really break down the specifics of ROI, investment needs to be made in order to generate a return. Pretty obvious, right? Now, where I see a lot of failing agents or agents on the pathway to failure getting this part wrong is that they don't have a clear ROI. And when you don't have a clear ROI, all that ends up happening is that you're not really investing, you're just spending money. Now, a really great example of this would be like an agent hiring a agency or maybe a assistant to manage their social media content, but not know why. And really, this is a great example of spending money because at the end of the day, there's no metric for measurement to track the return on investment. It's just that they hear that they need to be active on social media and they don't want to manage their own social media account themselves because of, whatever limiting belief that they have, and they really just won't admit it. So they're going to hire a company to do it with blind faith that this company is going to do something and hit them with a quick endorphin rush to give them a bunch of leads, and now they're going to have a whole bunch of new clients. Well, reality is that this isn't how that works. Now, on the other hand, the other end of the spectrum is the successful agent, and the successful agent is very keen on their metrics. They know their numbers to a T, so they are very clear on their next investment. So, for example, they're going to want to be tracking how many leads this campaign or this strategy generates in order to create either a new prospect, a new appointment, a new call, or a new client, which then leads to big trait number 2 is learning before they hire. Now, every successful company bases their hiring processes off of the 3 Ps. Those 3 Ps are product, or in your case, it's service, process, and then people. And it must be executed in that exact same order. Now, agents that are on a pathway to failure, they typically hire someone because they don't know how to do it themselves. Now, not only is this the wrong approach to have, it's also the easiest way to get taken advantage of by a contractor or a vendor. And that's simply because they're putting blind faith into a complete stranger. Now, on the other end of this, a successful agent will take their time to learn the process first, at least at a very high level. They'll maybe spend a day or a week or even a few weeks watching some YouTube video, reading some articles on Google, or maybe reading a book to really get to know the subject matter before hiring someone. Now, truth be told, some agents that are on a pathway to success, to having a successful career, they'll do this job themselves at least for a few times. They'll get in a few reps to really understand the process better before actually hiring anyone to do this job for them. Which then moves to big character trait number 3, which is investment in themselves. Now, this is the last big point for the money category, which is that agents on a pathway to failure, they're too scared to invest money into themselves. So for example, if a solution becomes evidently clear to them and is knocking on the door and is going to solve the problem that they're currently facing, the bottleneck of the business, they choose not to invest because of fear. And this fear is because they're scared of making the wrong decision. So instead, what ends up happening is they look to their current community, their safety zone of family, friends, and colleagues just to find a reason not to invest in themselves. Now, unbeknownst to them, the reality is they're inflicting a form of self-sabotage because the fear is actually giving them an excuse or self-generating an excuse for them not to act on this investment. Now, on the other hand, successful agents, they realize that investing them in themselves is actually the easiest way to close more transactions and make more money and get them closer to their financial and, personal goals. So they choose to surround themselves with people that are ahead of them on their journey. Now, this is really the cheat code in any industry and any business to really get ahead in life. Now, the thing about this though is that it actually costs money to get inside of these groups of people that are ahead of you. And they're not scared to spend this money because they really know that this is needed for them to get ahead in life. All right, now let's move over to category number 2, which is mindset. And the first big idea or the first character trait for mindset that I want to talk about is movement, specifically moving too slow. Now, a failing agent or an agent on their pathway to failure, they're going to find a solution. They're going to wait like a few months or a year to act. They're going to make the excuse that they need to research and then do more research and more research and more research. And they will not actually act on any of the information that's provided because this process of doing research is actually a byproduct of fear. Now, the reality is a successful agent, they move quick. Now, if we're going to use like a racetrack analogy, like they're lapping you on this racetrack and you probably don't even realize it because at the end of the day, this agent, the successful agent, what goes through their mind is how can I widen the gap between where I am to where all of these agents that are stuck in their own mind or moving too slow are at. So the faster they go, or the further ahead they go, the harder it is going to be for the failing agent to catch up. So successful agents, they act fast, they move fast. Failing agents, they move way too slow. All right, next big idea, big point, big character trait is time horizon. Now, agents on a pathway to failure, they have a very limited time horizon. They look at their next business deal in terms of maybe the next week or the next month. And the reality is they also look at their business in the exact same way. They're actually coming from a place of scarcity. Not a good feeling to have when you're running a business. Now, successful agents or agents that are on a pathway to success, they don't look at their business in days, weeks, or months. They look at their business in terms of years. Plural with an S. They know that by simply extending the time horizon, a lot more is possible for their business. All right, the last big mindset trait is referrals. This is actually a symptom of new agents and seasoned agents alike, like agents that have been doing this for years. Now, here's a description of a failing agent's business. Their business goes up and down like the teeth of a saw or maybe the teeth of a key. Some months are filled with closings while other months or several months are filled with droughts. And the one thing that they all have in common is that they've restricted their business to being completely referral based off of their sphere. Now, successful agents, on the other hand, they don't think with this mindset. They ask the question, and it's a very simple question, how can I get business from a complete stranger? And then they figure out how to solve that problem consistently. And through this process, they're able to build both predictability and longevity. All right, moving on to the category number 3, which is motivation. And character trait number 7 is agents work in versus on. Now, successful agents, they work in their business. They make excuses to keep them working in their business, like being inundated with helping clients because they don't know what to do next or are too scared to work on their business. Successful agents, on the other hand, they stay away from working in their business as much as possible. They hire staff, they find a way to delegate, and that's simply because they know that they are the bottlenecks of their business. They know that the growth of their business is really based on where they're spending their time. And the reality is growth is primarily focused on activities working on the business to drive in revenue or bring in cash flow versus activities working in the business. All right, motivation trait number 8 is comfort in comfort. Failing agents, they're comfortable. They don't get out of their zone of comfort even if it means that it's going to change their lives for the better. They're so used to being comfortable that they brainwash themselves into thinking that different tactics and strategies do not work, when in reality, doing said tactics and strategies just makes them really uncomfortable. It scares the crap out of them, so that's why they don't do it. On the other hand, successful agents, they're comfortable living in their uncomfortable zone. They're always pushing themselves, trying out new things and tinkering and testing and experimenting, trying to find a way to get at least 1% better every single day. And in order to get better, they know that they need to live their lives like 90% of their days in this place of discomfort, of not feeling good, because that is really where the growth happens. All right, and the last big trait is comparison. Failing agents, the reality is they compare themselves to other agents. They look at shows like Netflix, or maybe there's a successful agent in the office, and they always end up comparing themselves to those agents, not realizing that most successful agents, they're actually further along in their journey. They took different paths, but inevitably they're on their chapter 20 of their story, and you're effectively still on your chapter 1 or chapter 2. Now, successful agents, the way they look at things is they compare themselves to their own personal baseline. The baseline is what they were doing last month or last quarter or last year, and they're constantly looking for improvement to making sure that they're making gradual strides to get better. And they know over time, those strides to get better compound, and then that leads to a really, really long and successful real estate career. All right, now here's the interesting part about what I just presented to you. Each one of these pieces do not stand alone. They actually are all connected to each other. Now, for example, let's say an agent finds a program that they can invest in to really advance their business, get them out of where they are. But they're, number one, failing to learn the process or the basics of it. So when they find this program, they make the excuse that they need to research more. So what ends up happening is they end up moving too slow, and because they move too slow, they end up staying inside of their comfort zone and never actually get out of it, and then they really stay the same. They can't find the growth, and then they think that the world is against them. Very, very much victim mindset. Now, if we flip this, a successful agent will look at this exact same program, invest in themselves, set a time horizon for what the expectation is to get an ROI on this program, and then compare that to the baseline and figure out if this actual program or new feature or thing is going to benefit them and increase their cash flow, their stature, their career trend, or get them closer to their goals. Now, my big recommendation for you after watching this video, it's real simple. What I highly recommend is that you look at these 9 things and you grade yourself. You give yourself either a green if you think that you're on a career path for being a successful agent, a yellow if you're not sure it's something that you need to work on, or a red if you're falling victim to the trap of being on a pathway to failure. And then, of course, once you've identified your yellows and reds, constantly make strides toward improving them and really turning them into greens. Anyways, we talk a lot more about money, motivation, and mindset inside of our free Facebook group, leaving the link in the description below. But if you enjoyed this video, check out this one here. Bye now.